This was something that was flying, this was something that was active, this was something that was alive, and there's tons of speculation on what that thing was. Was it an alien? Was it a naturally occurring biological thing? Was it a spirit? Was it a time traveler? What was this thing? The interesting thing is those pop up throughout history in Russia. Chernobyl, when Chernobyl blew, guess what was flying around Chernobyl? A Mothman-like thing. The Freebird Shrieker. You're looking at situations where there was a catastrophe, a mine catastrophe, and this thing was there. Now, was it there to watch the catastrophe? Was it there to create the catastrophe? Was it there to warn people from the catastrophe? I don't know. After 32 years in law enforcement, you can imagine how many times I've interviewed people to say, give me a description. And it's anything from this guy with a red hat to this guy with a blue hat. It's like, wait, there's 4 people there, they saw the same guy, and that's the different, descriptions I get. When this thing was flying around, a few people saw it at the Silver Bridge that day, a whole bunch of people died. Silver Bridge collapsed. When you look at it, you can pragmatically go in there and go, okay, the design was poor. You couldn't see the rust on the bolts because of the way that the bars were linked together. The cars had changed quite a bit over the length of time that the bridge was there, so cars were heavier. They put in some stop signs and stop lights, which backed up traffic across the bridge. And then weighted down the bridge with all these cars, all these extra people in the cars and trucks, and the catastrophe happened. However it happened, the thing was there and people saw it. And there was enough people that saw it, and enough people that made the newspaper on this stuff, to where it's that red flag, it's that one thing, it's that little extra that's like, okay, we can dismiss this, or we can assign meaning to it somehow and see where we go. So I was going to get a degree in psychology until I realized I don't want to hear your problems. I was like, I'm going to get a degree in psychology. I can really do it. So Aberfan was a town that had a coal mine above it. Y'all get the picture so far? And when they're digging the coal mine, they pull the dirt out and they pile it up, and they pile it up, and they pile it up, and they have what's called a coal tip. And it's the tip of the pile of slag that they're digging out of there. And they just keep piling more. People in the town complained. The mining industry wouldn't do anything about it, and one day it rained. In England, I don't know. It was weird. And that coal tip became so soaked with water, it collapsed that morning as the kids started school. And covered the school and killed a whole bunch of them. They're all buried together. They're never found. But the crazy part is the amount of people that had premonitions on this. Now, you and I can argue all day long as far as there's a coal tip, it rains a lot in England, it's above the town, it might collapse. We all good with that? It's like it doesn't take a genius. But we could just equate it to that and go, that's what it is, what's for lunch? Or we can look at the people that did this premonition kind of stuff. What was that all about? There were children that died that day. There was one kid that died that day that actually drew the coal tip, the coal slag and everything coming down on the town the night before. And he drew it in his crayons and gave it there, and that was one of the things that his mother brought forward. A Ouija board is just like any of the other ghost things. It's just another tool. And the amazing thing about the Ouija board, let's say you don't even believe in it. Let's say it's like, all right, there's no spirits, there's none of this. Think about what she got out of that. Think about what the imagination that it spurs as you're working this board. And it's just a tool for, we can just say it's just to get your mind out there and to start thinking about things that you normally wouldn't consider. She's got books out of it, she's got all kinds of stuff, just because If it is just psychology, it wouldn't be there had she not have done that and spurred those ideas. So there's all these different tools that we use in this industry that we have to consider. How are we using them? Why are we using them? What is the environment? And what does it really mean? K2 meter, right? It starts blinking like crazy whenever there's EMF. Some people say, well, it's the ghost that brings the EMF and makes the K2 meter go on. Some people say it's the ghost being in the proximity of the K2 meter disrupting the EMF that makes it go off. Some people have other ideas. There's a whole bunch of ideas. So it's up to that individual interpretation and your understanding of the technology. So what do you do with this stuff? So my idea behind all of this is, if we would just take a moment, get past the little things, like I gotta go to the grocery store, I gotta do this, I have to do that, and we see these little things that happen to us day in and day out, that are those synchronicities, that are those unusual things. If we just took a moment and stopped and went and looked at it a little further and assigned meaning, how would that change our lives?